2020, a year of many unforeseen challenges, where all had to adjust to a new reality. And despite it all, Got Kush TV was and still is here to serve you. And what a year it's been. We began the repatriation journey with our new show, Voyage to Motherland. We dropped the knowledge as you took your seats in the Kush Hueniversity and joined us to hold a meds with the Ankh Doc. Got Kush TV invited you to get involved in conscious, controversial conversation and enter, decipher. And when the world went into lockdown, we kept you connected with the quarantine convos. We kept our finger on the pulse of the community with coverage of the Reparations Rebellion and the Black Pound Day all dayer. Not to mention more wordsmiths and a slew of new music video releases for your viewing pleasure, and the official launch of the Got Kush TV website. We also brought you events including Women of Power and of course Black Tricity. Now in 2021, Got Kush TV is continuing to level up the thing. First up, we are pleased to inform you that gotkushtv.com is open to exclusive membership. Sign up to any of our membership tiers and you will gain access to playbacks from all our events and an ever-growing list of exclusive original content, including interviews, documentaries, and shows such as Kush Hueniversity. To become an official member of gotkushtv.com, simply hit the membership tab. Stay tuned for continued updates. Then there's the new shows. Look out for more Decipher, Wordsmith, Hold a Meds with the Ankh Doctor, and weekly episodes of Quarantine Convos focused on health, wellness, education, and inspiration for our community. As always, the Got Kush TV film team is available for hire to cover all your events, adverts, infomercials, and all filming needs. Visit us at gotkushtv.com for hire inquiries and more information. Stand by all black businesses through our website, social media, and show content. We have monumental advertising, sponsorship, and network opportunities catering specially for you. Check out the advertising page on gotkushtv.com for more information. Got Kush TV is in full flight to join us for the ride. There's 4 things you can do. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell to make sure you don't miss a release. Join us on all social media and hit up gotkushtv.com to subscribe to our mailing list and sign up to become a Got Kush TV member for exclusive opportunities in the near future. Let us know you are feeling our content by hitting that ever so important button of approval. Comment. We want to hear your feedback on everything we are putting out. So make sure your presence is felt in the comment section. Share. Spread the word by hitting that share button and exposing your circle to the magnificence that is Got Kush TV. We are looking forward to building with you throughout 2021 and servicing you with high quality black media production. Got Kush TV, beyond discussion, beyond debate, we put the power in black media.
Quarantine Convos. Enjoy weekly discussions with people from around the world, assisting us in dealing with this normal, mentally, spiritually, and physically. We feature nutritionists, psychologists, therapists, personal trainers, home educators, legal experts, and more, bringing you all the information and inspiration you need. Check out Quarantine Convos every Thursday from 7 p.m. live on Got Kush TV.
Greetings, kings and queens. Greetings, kings and queens. Greetings, kings and queens. With Daya, it is Thursday, the 9th of the month they call September. A lot of mercy. And you know, so that's a calculation still, because Sep means 7, but it's a 9 month for the year. But you know, all Rome go on, kings and queens. These Romans, them don't know time and they like to play with time. But them call it September, so I guess over there. My name is Shakara, and you are here with myself and my co-host, Sister Mott. How you doing, Sister Mott?
I'm okay. I'm a little bit tired. You know what? I got into a battle with a spider about 1 a.m. this morning. You know, yeah.
All right, serious war.
Listen, I've been having these flashes for about 2 months that a large spider is going to come into my house, and yesterday was the day. Yeah,
right, the last spider came.
And the position they put itself in, I tried, ancestors. I tried. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I tried.
I hear you.
I came out gently, but I caught a leg. Nipped a leg.
Yes.
Well,
so, big up Brian Nancy. Big up Brian Nancy, you know what I'm saying, you know, and all these things, cause yeah man. Whenever a spider come in at my house, me reason with the spider, you know. Get the spider food talking. You know what I'm saying? Man.
I saw a post this week that said It's only black people talk to a bug before they kill it.
Right. Yeah, for reason with the spider, you know what I mean? Reason with him, man.
No, it wasn't planning to do anything damage to it, but it put itself in a precarious position.
Okay.
Yeah, so
all right. Nice. It's been raised in a family of Africans from Jamaica. You know, we got a special relationship with spiders because we hear spider story from the barn. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult for man to kill spider. You know, because kid Brian Nancy. You know what I mean? You can't harm Brian Nancy. You know, all these things. You know what I'm saying? So on the side, you know what I mean? It's so good. I'm sure the ancestors will forgive, you know what I mean?
They know my heart, they know the content of my character.
Most definitely.
Will be raised at the end of the day.
Most definitely. Well, that's actually an appropriate way to start, you know what I'm saying, today's conversation, family, because as you know, at the beginning of September, it's back to school time. We're enough away. Don't deal with the school vibration. We're upon home education, and many of us, in fact, most of us, have had to deal with that over the last year and a half, whether that was our previous situation or not. So we have an expert panel of educators here for you, kings and queens, that are going to go through and let you know about some of the educational initiatives that they have going. Yeah, and also, some of the modalities, the methods that you can use to accentuate. Yeah, that's a good, beautiful word right there. Accentuate the home education experience for your precious little ones, kings and queens. And Sister Moore, it just came into my head. You know, there's a saying that came into my head. But what I think I'm gonna do is allow you to drop the proverb and complement the proverb with the proverb that just came into my mind. All right. So go ahead, Sister Moore, bring it, and I'll complement it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? In a piece.
I'll give a slight explanation, because we have different variations of speakers this evening and panelists this evening. Right. And I want us to get to a point in our community where we give each other our flowers before we become ancestors. Yes. And so I look at these people here tonight, and I look at 50 years from now, and who they will be in our community. So this is an acknowledgement to them way beyond who they are as a in this physical, but as a legacy.
Yes.
And so a well-known one, but a beautiful one at that. And it says, when an old man dies, a library burns to the ground. And people always talk about that, when an elder passes, a library goes rebuilt. And these people here tonight are all, we have to understand, they are all alive.
They're all very old. They're all old people.
They are physical libraries in our community, and we have to acknowledge them as such. So that's why I chose this evening.
No problem. Beautiful. And I'm going to complement that with a quotation of a proverb that was popularized by a man by the name of Amilcar Cabral, and he was a freedom fighter in what is today called Guinea-Bissau. And he says, "Our children are the fruits of our labor and the principal reason for our fight." Once again, our children are the fruits of our labor and the principal reason for our fight. And I thought it just came to my mind. I thought it was appropriate.
Yes.
So I'd add that to the proverbial vibration. Yes. You know what I'm saying?
And we have to, it's beautiful, because it's that conversation about how our young people are the strength of the community, and we are said to be and supposed to be the wisdom. We cannot function without each other. We need each other. Right. This is duality, so we need that. So I appreciate that. That's a beautiful one.
We give thanks. Complementarity in our things is very important. You know what I'm saying? All right. So with that, kings and queens, let us bring through our illustrious panel. We're going to start with our elder mama, Mama K Johnston in the building. Greetings. You know what I'm saying? We're going to. All right, beautiful. We're going to bring through our sister, Novena-Chanel, in the building. Greetings.
Greetings.
Yeah, man, it's not shining. The sun is not shining outside right about now, Kings and Queens. But if you're missing it, just look at Sister Novena-Chanel's smile. Everything blessed, all right? You know what I'm saying? And to add even more sunshine, yeah, you know what I'm saying, smiling to that vibration. Let me bring through the one and only from across the waters in the United States of America, Queen Taese. You know what I'm saying? You get me? Greetings, sister.
Greetings. I'm already in vibration with y'all, so I'm thinking of the name of our homeschool, is Roots to Fruits.
Right.
And it's from the roots of our ancestors to the fruits of our youth. That's the whole concept of it. So I was just like, yes, I'm back here. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. You know what I'm saying? And not that I'm not honored, yeah, to be surrounded by all this beautiful African female energy. But it is good to have another brother on the panel, Kings and Queens. You know what I'm saying? So with that, him not smile, cause bad man not smile, and all these things. But he's a good brother in our community doing some fantastic work. We're going to introduce you to the man called Ziggy Moore. Greetings, Ziggy Moore.
Yes, respect. And it is an honor to be on a panel with so many illustrious, amazing women. So yeah, we have to give thanks, you know.
Give thanks as always, King. All right, family, let's get into this year. So it's back to school time, and we're there, and we want to get into varying different aspects of this whole educational process because our children are complete beings, yeah. And so you're gonna get a vibration in terms of the completeness of the educational process from how we proceed today. And so I'm gonna hand over to Sister Mott to get the situation started.
Yeah, I just want to say greetings to everyone. I just want to do some housekeeping. If everyone puts themselves on mute until they need to, until they're spoken to, or if it's a big discussion, then everybody can kind of chime in if it's one of those. So let's everybody do that, and then we can get this party started. And
one more thing, sorry, Sister, before I forget, sorry, Sister, I just forgot to say, people, them utilize the chat. Yeah, we're going to be inviting you on at some point in the not too distant future to interact with our guests. But in the meantime, please do utilize the chat, talk to each other, type your questions in, say in the comments, you know what I'm saying? Say guan, you know what I mean, like what I say, or whatever. And let us know where you're listening from. That'll be a beautiful thing as well. Let us know if you're listening from Yada, Foreign, US or Mars. You know what I'm saying? Everything blessed. We appreciate you tuning in. All right. Go ahead, Sister Mo.
Yeah, so I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. As we know, we are in very strange times, yeah, and the work that you do, all of you do, is so necessary in our community right now. You couldn't be more urgent, yeah. So I just want to let you know that's the importance of that. You know, your flowers, we give you your flowers, yeah, and we're about flowers here, yeah. So I want you to recognize that the work that you're doing, we acknowledge that, we understand the importance of the work that you're doing, and we want to allow this space for the people in the space. Everybody's in different spaces. Some people sent their children back to school. Some people are in the conversation around it or in an inquiry around it. So the important thing is that people get to know, you know, the importance of homeschooling and home education and the extra help. And it might be that people are already educating their children. My middle one has just gone into secondary mode. And though he's homeschooled, so it means though that I'm in a different mode, totally different mode now, and also I recognize that the qualities of homeschooling and the support that I get with that, but I recognize that people are in different spaces. I get questions all the time about, okay, you know, do this and that and all these different things, and the importance of them socializing and doing these kinds of things that are important to their development as well. I personally have found in my experience in homeschooling, I started homeschooling my son, my two boys, younger ones, at the beginning of this whole, you know, plan situation. And so inside of that, I always wanted to homeschool. It was a little, I just so wanted to, but I just needed that push, and I got the push, and it was like, yes, let's run with it. So it allowed me to look at that. The last year we've had, it's allowed me to look at what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, you know, what their, if you like a business, what the opportunities towards them are, like what the threats are. And so it's important to cover a real broad education for them. I recognize my children's learning style. Yeah, each of my children learn very differently. So I'm wired as a parent to engage in them from that. I might be able to give my children the same instruction, and both of them are taking it in very different ways. And so I have to always be conscious of, okay, that one is a kinesthetic visual and that one is an audio visual. So I have to be able to say it in a particular way and get him and wait for him to process it, yeah, before he activates that. Whereas maybe the younger one might activate it straight away, but not necessarily he will act on it because he's quite intuitive towards what he knows I'm about, but he won't necessarily always hear it. He will just act on it. Yeah. Often he gets it right. Sometimes he doesn't. So when he's navigating these things for himself and their young age and the young tender ages that they are. And so I'm recognizing the power of yourselves being in the space. We appreciate you. We're humbled that you could come on, and we recognize the most important thing right now is that our youth are supported and strengthened by the people in our community. So that's how I just want to say that to you before we start. Shaka.
Giving thanks, sis. Giving thanks for that introduction there. Do you know what I'm saying? So what I'm going to do is just go around, starting with Brother Ziggy, and we'll just introduce yourself briefly to the masses who are tuned in.
Good evening. My name is Ziggy Moore, founder, owner of Moore Education, UK's leading online black supplementary school. We have been, as a supplementary school, we've been in operation for 5 years. I've been an educator teacher for coming on 15 years. At our supplementary school, we provide maths and English support. So we run in line with the curriculum, or I should say we run in line with the skills needed within the curriculum to be able to attain the best grades at GCSEs. So what we try and do is we try and set a platform and foundation and mentality for our young people to achieve not only at secondary school, but to put them on the right trajectory to go on to do A-levels and move on into university, because we know that the greatest change in life, or the greatest thing that can change your life, is your education. So that's our platform, and thank you very much for inviting us on, and we're really looking forward to engaging in the discussion.
Give thanks for that, my brother. Give thanks for that. And on to my sister, Queen Taese.
Greetings. It's a joy to be here. My name is Queen Taese from the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Institute, which I'm the founder and CEO of. We are an organization, an international organization now, that provides resources, training, and a huge community of African families who come together to support the process of homeschooling from a little different perspective than most say. How can I put it? So we deal with homeschooling from us taking charge, being in the driver's seat of our children's education. And we also recognize that looks very different at different stages for people. So even for those who are still in the public schools, who know that they need to be moving out of that space, supporting them in their transition of, deciding what's important to them, for their children to learn from start to finish, just like the public schools do, and moving them on a phase of liberation. So we've been doing this, but we just celebrated our 10th anniversary, and we have a host of offerings, which I'll get into probably a little bit later, but I'm just grateful.
Most definitely. Give thanks, Queen Taese. Full disclosure, kings and queens, I've been teaching in African-centered supplementary education for the entirety of my adult life in one way or another, and I've just added another string to my bow because I'm one of the scholar educators for Queen Taese's latest venture, Liberated Minds' latest venture, which is the Homeschool Hueniversity. So I give thanks for that opportunity right there. I had my first session on Tuesday and everything went well. So we'll get into that a little bit
and
later.
Everyone's still talking about you. Everyone's still talking about you.
Give thanks. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Moving on to Sister Novena-Chanel. And yes, you gotta say the whole thing. Go ahead, sister.
Hi, greetings. So my name is Novena-Chanel, better known as the Equilibrium Coach. I am a psychotherapist, a life coach, nutritional advisor, yoga instructor, and a whole lot more. But my main thing right now is that I'm a director of the Mars Children's Film Club, which is a homeschool academy based in Croydon, where we teach 5 to 11-year-olds how to watch movies, analyze the beauty of healthy debate. We can disagree respectfully, and do some of the national curriculum of the English, the maths, we do some of the project science.
Interesting. I'm actually teaching media studies with Queen Taese institutions. That's a link there. And I'm also a yoga teacher, so we've got some conversations to have. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. All right. And last but by no means least, yeah, the internationally world renowned Mama Kay Johnston. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Good evening. I am Kay Johnston. I am, definitely the matriarch here. I've been
That's right.
42 years. And I'm now retired, but I work with a carousel of children who are home educated. And what I've found since I started this journey about 6 years ago is that education without walls, and I'm horrified as to how long I stayed on the other side of the desk or the other side of education, because what I found since I've worked with the home ed community is how limitless it is. You're able to cater to the different learning styles of children, how they learn, what excites them, and it is one of the most rewarding experiences I wouldn't say I've ever had, but certainly within education, it is very, very rewarding to see how they are. I'm also the founder of the Nubian Ministry of Education, which the ultimate aim is to link just about everything or to put under one umbrella whatever is going on in our community, not just in the UK, but throughout Africa, the US, the Caribbean, so that we can, point people in the right direction for the services that they need. And we have that at our fingertips. And also to open up the world for our young people, some of whom never leave their postcode, so that they know that there's a world out there that they can tap into, and we can support them on their journey to excellence. Yep, I think that's it for me. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you very much, Mama Kay Johnston. And big up the chat, big up the chat. You know what I'm saying? People keep using the chat. Big up Yedebe Don Coro. I think I've said that right. You know what I'm saying? Big up yourself. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for being here. Randomly came across the, you know what I'm saying, the stream. Big up to Bianca T in the building, all the way in the US of A, New Jersey, which is actually the first place that I ever visited in the USA still. Coffee Campbell is in the building. And also I am Natural Mystic. Right. We're gonna start with the brethren Ziggy Moore, you know what I mean? Because Ziggy in their pantings. And in relation to Sister Moore, let me defer to you first, just in case you got a question before I dive. You know what I'm saying?
No, go dive. Do your thing.
You sure? Are you sure?
Go ahead.
All right, cool. So Mr. Ziggy, obviously, we're in a challenging time at the moment, and I know you focus very much on assisting children in being able to pass their GCSEs, in expert fashion. And within the realms of the current situation, what are some of the primary? And by the way, for those across the pond, GCSEs is like your SATs. It's the final exam before you leave high school or what we call secondary school, right? And what are some of the primary challenges that you found in your position in terms of our children, our community children, and passing those particular exams?
Okay, so at the moment, the biggest problem is going to be, or the biggest issue that faces us, is the fact that children have been off of school for probably roughly about a whole academic year. Statistically, African and Caribbean students fall below national. I'm not sure if that's my mic. My apologies. Fall below the national average pass rate at GCSE. Pass rate has roughly sat for the last few years at about 50%. Girls average better than boys, roughly just maybe about 49 to 47%. Boys around 45 to 47%. So we've always sat below the national average pass rate. However, with the impact of the pandemic, it's going to be greater. How aware are we of the devastation that this has caused our children and our community. I understand from a kind of health perspective, but being in education, I'm looking at it from an education perspective. The type of work and effort it's going to take to even get our children up to par is, I'm not sure how much our community is aware of the mountain that faces us and the generational impact it's going to have. So if you look at even just nationally, when people are predicting the impact on our economy over the next 10 years, the impact on the job market over the next 10 years, when we look at the microcosm of our community, specifically here in the UK, it's devastating. And to be honest, I'm scared and petrified for our children, because the reality is the schools were not prepared and are not prepared for what's about to come. There's no money and no investment from, if anybody's looking to the government to kind of recover. So you're pretty much left on your own. So if you were slightly behind before, as we were, we're hugely going to be behind over the next 3 to 5 years. You asked a question beforehand, before the pandemic. One of the major issues I found was parental engagement and involvement. That tends to be a massive issue when looking at education within our community. Unfortunately, because we're dealing with so many issues within our communities, within our homes, sometimes education can be pushed to the bottom. So we're fighting against social economic issues, mental health and well-being. Education can sometimes be maybe third or fourth, but in the next 5 to 10 years, we're really going to see the effects of this. And I'm so glad to have people in this room, especially Kay Johnson, somebody who I've reached out to. I think I spoke to, we communicated earlier this week, who are putting things together to really deal with what we're about to encounter. My major fear is that we may be underestimating about the devastation that's about to impact our community. So yeah.
So from that perspective, then, from an educational perspective, as an educator yourself, and in terms of advising families, what kinds of things do you think that we need to be focusing on and putting in place in order to assist our children?
Okay, so the major issue is, from what I'm saying, and it's something that Kay spoke about, was centralizing, having a central point of where the community can go to in regards to education, because we seem to be quite disparate and spread out. The first thing we need a central point. Firstly, we need the message to be cemented that a lot of parents seem to think that schools are going to get you by. Other communities that I've worked with are fully aware that they don't want to do that 50-50 chance. The school isn't going to be enough. The third thing is, what is the standard that we expect from our children? Is it okay for our children to simply pass or scrape by, or are we looking for our children to attain the highest grades possible because we understand what it means when they do? And do we understand the work that it's going to take for our children to attain those highest grades? So I would say those are sometimes probably the 3 most important points. So it'd be a centralized point, information, and having clear goals and expectations for our children.
Thank you very much, Brother Ziggy. Sister Moore?
Yes. Well, I wanted to ask, I appreciate that. And I think this was really honest answer. I do want to ask the other members of the panel who, we've all experienced this time, in many different ways. That there's been a lot of challenges with this time for young people in everyone in different ways, right? And I would like to maybe ask each of you, let's start maybe with you, Kay Johnson, what, in terms of the challenges that you have seen, in this time, what have been the most challenges for young people during this time, and being able to catch them up then, so to speak?
Mike is still muted. Okay, I'm going to get a different perspective here, because when we bear in mind that we are looking at children as opposed to adults, it's been 1 year. I don't see it as the end of the world. You have got children who have been ill in hospital for a year or more, and they can come out and they can catch up again. So I'm not getting into the hysteria, oh, they've lost a year, all is lost. We bear in mind that they've got their whole lives ahead of them, and they can catch up. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with starting the year again. And that is exactly what I did when we came out of lockdown. I started the academic year again with children that I was working with. I'm not getting into the hysteria of lost the year, because while they were off, they learned different skills. And it isn't all about the academics that is going to get them through life. It's when they're at home, they learn to cook, they learn to budget. And these are the things, when I was doing my radio show, Home Time, these are the things that I spoke to parents of what you do. There's nothing to get panicky about. There are other things that you can do. You teach your children, how to prepare a meal, how to budget, budget around. For those parents who are pitched into their home educating journey unwillingly, there is nothing wrong with learning beside your children, because a lot of parents felt very ill-equipped. Oh, I don't know this and I don't know that. Well, believe me or not, I've been in education 42 years and I don't know everything. And I'm not ashamed to say, okay, we're going to learn this together. We're going to find this out together. And as a parent, that has got to be the best thing. Your children get a different kind of respect for you when you can say, put your hand up and say, no, I don't know everything, but let's find out together. And it is the most mind-blowing experience when, the parent and child are on that journey together. So, I mean, I am not coming in from a point of despair. What we have, it's a lot of it is government fueled in the newspapers and the media, or children are behind. And when you look, the children themselves are not stressed out about it. It's when they get into school and the teachers are telling, oh, will you be behind? No, let's just start again. Just get on with it. So I am not subscribing to that school of thought that all is lost and everything is good. Yeah, things will correct themselves. Children learn in different ways. And if nothing else, this pandemic has shown a lot of parents how their children learn. Because previously they just put them in school and the teachers get on with it. And the teachers, you do everything to a timetable. Now you see how they learn, what they want to learn, what interests them. And I see the pandemic for the children being at home as something positive for families, because they're learning a lot about each other. The children are learning from their parents are learning about each child that they've got, because of something that you said, Sister Mutt, about your children being different in the way they access their learning. And that's what they're finding out. So that those who've put their children back into school, some of them are doing it with trepidation, because they've learned things about the children they can't even convey to the teachers. This is about how my child learned, because when teachers are in school, it's all about herd control. You got classes of 30, 35, and you've got to get that 35 into one behavior, into one way of thinking, and everybody's got to finish everything within 55 minutes, 1 hour, however long the lesson is. Education without walls, you don't need that. It's not time bound. You can, some children will finish something quickly, some will take a bit longer, and it's just about what interests them. So I am not seeing this as something that I have to worry about or stress about, or in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, you'd be surprised to know in the next 6 months how many children would have caught up with consistency, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about consistent approach. And then you can learn about what excites each child, because that's got to be the starting point. Having conversations with your children as to what interests them, and you take it from there, because education has to be children-led rather than teacher-led all the time. And of course we need teachers. I've been in the profession for so long. Of course we need teachers with the expertise and the guidance or whatever, but the children are the ones who are going out, so you have to let them take the lead sometimes of what interests them, how they'd like to approach it. And I'm not going to pretend that I know only my way is the way. Okay, let's see your approach, how you see it, and you take it from there. So that's just my approach to things.
And I appreciate their approach, and I say that because I remember during the initial situation, I remember like my children. When my children were in school, I was a parent governor at different times. I'm very heavily engaged in schools that my children go to anyway. So I've never sort of taught my children to dislike school. And I also, even if I had my own challenges with education, where I might have been in a predominantly white school in my secondary education and bumped up against different things, I didn't want that to. I have a mother to 3 boys. I didn't want them to go into school with all of that. Yeah. So for me, it was about them going into school at ground zero on their achievements, their merit, their character, their content of their character and the content of their heart. And sharing their gifts, if you like. If sometimes people can't see your gifts at different times. So when this situation occurred, it was a challenge. I can't pretend it wasn't a challenge for the children. The youngest one, so my middle one is 11 and my youngest one is 7. So I didn't. My 7-year-old had only just gone into school, so he wasn't bothered, and he was already the kind of child who didn't want to go to nursery. He was the type of child when he was 3 years old. One day he went to nursery and he said, "Mom, I don't," and I thought, yeah, great, his godmother was the manager of the nursery. I said, he's always, all my children have gone through her nursery. And I said, do you want to go to nursery? And he said, "No, I don't want to go to nursery, Mummy." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Maybe you'll see your friends." He said, "I don't want to see my friends, Mummy. My friends are too naughty." Yeah. And he's always been the type of child generally who always wants to behave, right? Yeah. So he adapted really easy. Whereas my middle one, he was in year 5 then. He was going into that stage. He's in his puberty. He felt like, there was the possibility of staying home, yes, but there was the possibility of, not maybe interacting with his friends in the same way. So we made quite an effort for him to be in contact with his friends and see the friends and go out with the friends and take them places. And, we did a lot of that. So, and I remember, my children, I might cook when they were at school. So they wouldn't see me make dinner would be ready when they get home, right? And so that meant that they didn't see me cook as often, only maybe at the weekends or something, right? And then, because I was cooking all the time, and at the time I was not a baking kind of woman. Yeah, I didn't have to be. Yeah, three sons, I don't have to bake. However, I got into baking because now I'm teaching. So we're talking about measurement, using maths. We're like, okay, we're looking at weight. So, and what it nurtured in my youngest is that he wants to become a chef. So I recognized those types of skills, being able to have different conversations. Those two who are homeschooled actually get on better now. Yeah, then when they were seeing each other at school, they'd be really cool at school, like, yeah, and then they get home and then they argue. Yeah, and then it'd be like, now they're like the brother's keeper. I'm very much brother's keeper, but it was very much like they're doing it by default now. They know they're accountable for each other's behavior and how each other, one has to finish their dinner and one has to finish you both have to finish before even, no one leaves, right? And it's very, very important that the communication skills between them has developed as well. We talked about it. And I said to them right at the beginning, I said, I don't know what this is going to look like, but however it's going to go, we're going to make sure it's fun. Yeah. And my thing is, let children learn through play, learn through fun. And I'm very kinesthetic. So, it's easy for me to, and my background was in performing arts. So it's easy for me to engage in those kind of things and get really, playful if I want to. So I recognize some of those skills. And it's about now, I suppose, with my older one, recognizing, okay, it's a secondary education now. Me and Elder are going to get on. Let it go, more. Yeah, I've got my stripes. I've got my cape. I don't need that one, right? So I've just recognized where I'm happy to look at my limitations. I'm happy to look at what I need to learn, or what I don't know. And like you said, learning alongside them has been actually fun. Like I get to say, oh God, I'm actually very good at that. Or I remember things from, you get flashes of your own childhood, and things like that coming up. So I think that's really, really important. The balance of it, the balance of academics and the balance of, skills, personal skills, development, life skills as well. So I just want to go on to, I mean, I don't know if you want to say anything, but I was going to go on to Novena-Chanel and ask her what your thoughts or whatever challenges you felt and how you felt maybe they can be overcome and what you've seen in this time.
Yeah, I mean, I love the view, both Kay and Ziggy, and I always guess I sit in the middle of that. As a psychotherapist, I hear some of what you're saying, Ziggy, in that when the children are brought away from that system, yes, the academic is important. I mean, what standard are we putting the academics to? Are we looking at a national curriculum? We are people of African background, culture. Our understanding, our levels of academia are different anyway. And we have a look back home what they learn and look at what's happening here. The comparison back home, they are fully exceeding anyway. But I do also think that there was something, a lot of my friends' children go to private school. And whereas the main schools were being shut down, their children were still going to school. So they were shown there's something about a child being with their peers, learning how to have an, I love you said your sons, they've learned it because they had siblings. But the children who were maybe just by themselves, they're not learning about from their peer group, how to fall out, how to become friends again. At a certain age, you have to learn about your identity around your peer group. And you need to have to learn with your peer group in a classroom. That's why we did a film club in a classroom, in a school setting. It's great. My son is always out. If you see our Instagram, we are always out exploring. But I make sure he also knows how to operate in a world where he will be asked to sit still in a classroom setting or an office setting, if it is his company, God willing. But he needs to know how to do those things. So I hear there's a concern, and I do hear that. Yes, I say with Kay on that, and that I'm not getting caught up in the hysteria. To me, every child has they are innately born able to learn. If you watch a baby, they're sponges. They just absorb. My 1-year-old, she absorbs everything. Things she shouldn't even know, she seems to know. They're just learning. And if you look at, there's a lovely quote I love that they say, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will forever be stupid. And I think that's what's happened to a lot of our children. I'm seeing it through the film club. I'm seeing it through the children I meet in the homeschool community and the children who go to school. They've been told that maybe they're not good at things. The teachers haven't understood their learning styles. So they are now believing they aren't good at these things, or they're not as clever as, or they can't do X, Y, Z. But actually, again, they are innate geniuses. So I think, as you said, Sister, if you understand your child's learning skills and learning style, and as Kay said, their consistency, they could miss school for 2 years. As long as you're taking care of that emotional side of them and understand that a child learns through anything. My son today was watching things on YouTube about, oh God, what was it? I don't even know half the things he's learning. It's so terrible. I have to learn alongside him, like you're saying. I might be talking to him and say, 1 second, let's go and Google that. And let me just go and reference it, because I don't personally know, Baba, but let's learn it together. It's beautiful. But he was learning through that. He learns through seeing me on the phone, talking to people. And I'll say, look, I'm charging, we sell vegan food. I'm going to charge them X, Y, Z, but the cost of the bottle is that. Do you think that's profitable? Those things your children are learning. So they have been learning through the lockdown. It might not be a national curriculum standard of what it's supposedly meant to be, but believe me, they've been learning. And those that maybe haven't got the access, because I do think it's about also the household and the family. So yes, some families may have the struggles there. Some families, sorry, just cut someone's call. Some families may have the struggles there. Some families may not have the access or the confidence. And I agree completely. And yes, those children are going to struggle with some element. Maybe their confidence has been hit. And that constant affirmation, when maybe they are in a good school, they're being shown they can do new things, that may be missing. So there's work to build back up that confidence. But again, that can be done. They've got the rest of their lives to do that. It's as though I wouldn't worry so much. My only concern is in 10, 20 years, 5 years from now, the ones that haven't had the social interaction, they haven't had a healthy environment.
Right.
Those are my concerns. We've got grown adults that have issues with just their behavior in general.
Yep.
So that's my concern.
You know, one of the things that I have heard is that one of the concerns in terms of early learning at the moment is that a lot of the mask wearing is affecting babies learning to communicate, because they obviously babies learn by mimicking you know,
Facial expression.
facial expressions, and because they're not seeing as many facial expressions, it's stagnating, you know, their development, right? And so we're gonna have to find ways of figuring this out. And one of the interesting things is that I'm gonna come to Queen Taese, and we're gonna get back to Ziggy because I know he's got limited time, yeah. But it is that with Queen Taese, she does online stuff, and she has people that do online stuff with children who are 3, right? And like, this amazes me because I would have never thought this was possible. Right? What's it called? But so I really want to ask you, Queen Taese, in terms of Mama Kay was talking about learning without walls, and I know that you're an advocate of world learning, yeah, being out of the world as learning, right? So what, and in fact, thinking back to our very first quarantine convos, we spoke to Jamelia, yeah, very well known sister artist in our community over here, because she also home educates. And so our very first quarantine convos was about parents who are about to have to home educate and what they're going to do with their children. So I'm going to ask you that in terms of for people that they're very new, yeah, to this field of home education, and it's been thrust upon them now. What kind of basic advice here would you give in terms of frameworks, ideas, methods, strategies, mentalities that you need to be able to approach this journey successfully?
Well, I'll start right there. When you say successfully, let's start with the definition of success. No, I think we all need to redefine that, as everyone's trying to align with this governmental system of what they're defining education to be. You know, we as African people for thousands of years have been successful in mapping that out, you know, and it carrying itself forward to generationally. Right. So I think we need to rediscover that within ourselves, because for so long we've allowed other people to step in and take charge of our children's education. It almost feels foreign, as we saw a lot of the parents when the pandemic hit. They were like, oh my gosh, I have to teach my children are home. It was like this whole burden thing. And so I think it's really important, first of all, to know that, you know, we also, as I love what Kay had said earlier, we're on this journey of learning together. So we are also dealing with the detoxification of our own indoctrination as parents. We're dealing with the curriculum trauma. So we also have to be learning with our children, but also taking the steps to work with the things that we may not have felt as confident in, because if we don't, we'll pass that forward to our children as well. And understanding that, you know, the world is our classroom. You know, our life is our curriculum. The things that we deal with and go through every day, as she said, cooking or just different tasks, right, around the house, business, dealing with how we do our finances in the home, all these different elements. You know, we have the outside, the outdoors that are around us. So for those who are thrust into this aspect of home education, I say it's an opportunity to seize, because if your children are going to be home anyway, and you have to administer what the school is giving them, and you're putting that amount of effort in, why not put in the effort to, you know, craft something that is in alignment with their success, with their learning styles, with their divine purpose? Because we forget that education is a spiritual process. We take spirit out of it, you know, but we are not African people without spirit. So we can't separate the two. You know, it is one, it's in alignment, and it's for us to come back in alignment with that way of thinking and being. So just looking at your curriculum, you know, that's like a scary word for a lot of people. Like, curriculum, what am I going to do? I don't know, you know, and not realizing that there's curriculum all around us. You know, everything that we see that our children can learn is not just what comes in a textbook, right? What comes in a textbook was created by someone else's philosophy, thoughts, and ideas. And a lot of those ideas are not ideas that allow us to prosper. And understanding that education should be, you know, in alignment with our goals to empower African people. So if you're becoming a scientist, what are we doing to empower African people? If you're becoming an educator, in what way will we empower African people? So I think it's really important that the cultural piece be not like a supplemental thing, a sidebar, but that we are relearning ourselves, that everything we see should be through our African worldview. And I know that's a process for a lot of families, but I think this is a great time where we can do it together. Various homeschool groups can reach out to each other. There's so many people who are thirsty and hungry, and they've been thirsty and hungry. This is just forced them into a position to having to act. It's like the sink or swim thing. Either you're gonna, you know, work through it. It's been an uncomfortable situation for many of us, but I like to look on the positive side of it and say, you know, what is it that we can do? I miss being in right in front of my babies and hug them all at the Homeschool Collective. But I'm like, hey, you know what? We've been doing this. I've been homeschooling for 25 years. And, you know, we've been doing this ongoing in person. And right now, I'm not just going to drop it. We're going to pivot. We're going to move to whatever else we can do because we are the most creative people. How can we make it work and bring spirit into it? Not a dry educational experience, because you say the virtual, which was my concern, you know, was it going to be something where the children were not stimulated, not interested, not able to develop in these different areas of thought and thinking? But actually, you know, we bring our spirit wherever we go. So the energy travels. And so that's how we envelop each other. Like you're all in different places right now, right? And we're here, we're sharing, we're giving ideas. So first, I think it just starts with our own self-confidence. And then from there, we begin to build more competence. We have to trust and know. We have to dissect what our fears are. And then we have to spend more time building relationships with our children, not just trying to give them assignments. Are the relationships, or it's just like, you know, before you can educate a child, you have to get to know them. They have to trust you. You have to trust them. We have to repair relationships. A lot of times, especially when children get to teenage years, there's so much disconnect as a result of not being present every day, you know, with each other and sending our children off. We don't even know who our children are. So reconnecting with their values, reconnecting with the things that we feel are most important of our household, our family mission statement that I feel everyone should have. Those non-negotiables of morals, values, traditions, the things that have been pushed out of the educational process, you know, by being in the school system. And even if you are in that system, you know, just start where you are. Begin educating yourself. Begin reading together with your children. If you're finding a positive documentary, things that can create dialogue. You know, so I think the confidence piece is a lot of what we're dealing with, and I've seen it on many different levels. And it can be overturned with the right support around you, keeping positive people around you. And as you're deciding what's most important for your children, understanding, as was said earlier, there's so many opportunities that bring the same thing as that textbook will bring. And I know my children have done the internships and the apprenticeships. And those internships and apprenticeships have been the same. And I say this, some people say, I don't know, as if they went to college. And I promise you, it didn't cost me a penny. They were able to support another Black business. You know, my son was really into aviation. And so I didn't know, a lot of times we don't know what to do, but if we have the will and the want to do the research, so we can look up all the YouTube videos of all these people in music. We can look up videos about who's out here doing something that's in alignment to assist our children. We can look up the books. We can look up people in the news, people that we can connect with. There's so many ways to be creative. And when we open ourselves up to be able to nurture them and the things that we see that they love, because I didn't know anything about aviation, wasn't interested, not even the least bit, but, you know, he took that interest and I began to piece together. I said, okay, well, let's have a science birthday party. I don't know, let's bring somebody in who does science, you know, and then I'm like, okay, well, let me look. Oh, I saw this guy in the media. It's a young brother and he's a pilot. And so I just began to pull together, you know, talk to people, look up articles, research myself. And then, you know, then I found the aviation program for him, and he was able to accomplish in 16 years. By 16, he had his pilot's license, and he's still, you know, doing what he loves right now at 24. And people say, well, wow, that's phenomenal, and this and that. And I say to myself, all of our children are phenomenal. They all have the capabilities and ability to take on what we give them, but are we willing to do the work? That's really what it comes down. We did the work to make them. Are we going to do the same amount of work, if not more, to develop them and cultivate them? And that's really, so I'm going to leave it right there. So I don't know.
All right. Mr. Ziggy Moore. Enough things have been said, you know. So I'm going to hand over to Sister Moore to see if she got a question first. And then we'll
yeah, I mean, I think it's important because obviously due to your time, I wanted to I suppose my question to you, what's the most important? Not everybody's going to home educate, or not everybody's going to get another provision for their children outside of school. People are in different places with this, and I recognize that, and I can, acknowledge where people are at. What do you feel is the best use of a parent's time right now in terms of what their children need?
Before I address that question, I just kind of want to commend all of the amazing things I heard that parents were able to do. I heard some people doing with their children during the lockdown, use system more, and some brilliant ideas. Fantastic. And it's lovely, like myself, your children are really privileged, and my children are really privileged to be able to kind of have parents that are able to engage them and look at kind of education in that way. But I don't know, maybe again, it's because I'm not in a homeschooling kind of environment, but those aren't the kind of daily conversations I'm having with parents. And when I look at even if I was looking at my upbringing and my background, had this have happened to me and many of my peers when we were at school, we would have been devastated. Coming from
you know what, Ziggy, just to back up one thing that you're saying, because whereas I agree with everything that everybody said before, but it's important to remember as well, a year for us hardback people is a lot shorter time frame than it is for 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old. Like a year is a lot longer. They experience it longer than we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
if we remember when we were their ages. Yeah, so yeah.
It's just if I'm 37. A year is a 1/37th of my life. However, 13-year-old, that's 1/13th of their life. It's that simple. So the impact that it's going to have, and I appreciate within a homeschooling network, it's a very nurturing environment. But again, I've consistently had conversations with parents who are under severe stress, and that stress has been impacted by their children. I've had constant conversations with parents over the summer holidays who are fearful of of what's happening with their children and all of these things that are happening. So I think it's quite a unique environment, and speaking from maybe a homeschooling perspective represents a very almost niche situation of where the entire community is at. So that's the only kind of thing I kind of wanted to say. I didn't want to come across too draconian, but as I said, maybe the conversations and parents who I'm speaking to on a regular basis are in very, very different situations to myself. I've got to appreciate that because, as I said, my children were at home during the pandemic, but they live a very different. We had workmen in over that period of time, and my son became an apprentice carpenter. He's been working over the summer. He's developed some amazing skills. My daughter, photo editing. That new show on Channel 4. She'd been doing an apprenticeship with those people. I think it's called High Life or so on and so forth. She's in a very privileged situation. Most of the children, unfortunately, within the community in which I work are not. And unfortunately, most of those people may not even be privy to the conversation that we're having here. The amazing work that's being done, and that's maybe part of my frustration, that I know Kay's doing some amazing work. The amount of people I've had to direct in her direction, say, please, this is, don't go that way. This is what we need, because the stresses of life and the reality of, and I'll be quite frank, being a Black person in the UK, dealing with the myriad of issues we have to face on a day-to-day basis. As I said, education is almost a privilege to be able to discuss it. So to address the issue, I don't really know what the way round is going to be. It's simply because I know how educating myself, the importance and how it's changed my life, how it's changed my siblings' lives, and generally how it changes lives. As I said before I came on here, I was literally on Instagram. A young person contacted me who I had 4 years ago. And what we were able to do is the school had written him off. It was a school in Hertfordshire who were on the brink of expelling him, and they weren't going to enter him for some of his GCSEs. I had to go down there. I had to have meetings with the school, and we had to tutor him. he joined our group. He was able to achieve those grades. And I think it was, I can't remember which sister said it, what we were able to do is infuse confidence within him. He never thought he would pass. He never thought he would be able to kind of achieve anything. And being able to achieve those grades, although I appreciate, the construct of education isn't the summarization of who we are as individuals, but for that young man, that was the first time he was able to see a symbol that he was able to achieve. He just told me he's going to be starting university in Nottingham Trent for an accountancy degree. I appreciate that's not for everybody, and that's not the route that everybody's going to go down. But for him at 16 to be where he is now, that was almost an impossibility. No, he's 19, excuse me, an impossibility. And he's now going to change the trajectory for the rest of the siblings in his family who have probably been given a message, the message that I was given when I was kicked out of school at 8, and a message that many children are given, that you can actually achieve. So ensuring the importance of achievement in education and cementing that within our community is really, really important. But as I said, I'm going to have to disappear. I really appreciate being invited on. You're all doing amazing, amazing work. I hope to be able to connect with what everybody's doing and see if we can find some common ground.
Most definitely. I was about to just say, but if you want to connect with brother Ziggy, because he's doing some serious work, and you know, we do live within a construct within which, you know, your GCSEs and your A levels and your degrees are important. So get in contact with the brother through moreeducation.co.uk. He has an extremely good success rate, and as you just heard, whether you like it or not, he's going to give you the real thing. So we appreciate brother Ziggy for being here. And that's why we're here, you know, because all of the people that we have on the platform right now are solution oriented. They're providing solutions to these problems from a variety of different perspectives, kings and queens. And that's why we're here. All right. So give thanks for brother Ziggy's contribution. And no doubt he's going to have to do some productive work right about now. Right, Sister Moore, do you have another question? I do, but I'll defer to you if you got one first.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
So I want to go into a little bit of controversy, right? Because since Mama K. Johnston mentioned this thing about child-centered learning, and there are certain, I'm not going to call no names, but I'm going to say there are certain Black conservatives, who in the UK right about now, who are attacking this idea of child-centered education, all right? That education should be teacher-centric, and teachers should, you know, be the authorities in the classroom, and they should administer instruction and so on and so forth. And I understand that, but I don't necessarily see that as an opposite, or opposing child-centeredness, if that makes sense. I'm not sure I see the conflict here. So when you say child-centered, Auntie Kay, is it oppositional to the role of the teacher as an authority, and the idea of having discipline within a class, or is that an simplistic way of looking at it? You're on mute, Auntie.
Right, now we've got the national curriculum and we've got the international primary and middle school curriculum. Mm-hmm. The national curriculum, if you look at those two, that is very much teacher-led. Right. If anyone had the opportunity to go into a school to see how the international curriculum, that is children-led. And it is absolutely mind-blowing. I actually took the time out and went into some schools to see how it worked. And one school I went into, the class that I went into, a year 5 class, they were not expecting me. Mm-hmm. And those children, you know, they were linked to a school and the other part of the world. And they were looking at how we get chocolate. And they were taking the journey through the cocoa field and, and everything. So they had a full understanding of, by the time it hits the sweetie shops, the news, the journey that it has been on. Right. And those children put on a presentation for me just off the top of their head because they were used to taking control of their education.
Okay.
And that is the difference. I actually had one of those on my team. The head of the UK International Primary Education curriculum was actually one of the people on my team. Now, listen, I want to rewind a bit here about the effect of children's education and lockdown. Now, for me, the biggest stumbling block that the parents have had is thinking that they had to replicate school at home.
Right.
And the work that the teachers sent home gave that an impression that they had to do exactly what they should be doing at school. That is what, and that's where the panic set in, because some parents didn't feel that they could measure up, and things fell apart at that stage.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they must ignore it or whatever, but the thing is, there are so many of the children who've gone back into school after lockdown are different people. And that has to be recognized. They have survived something different that they will remember for the rest of their lives, and that has to be celebrated. It's building on the skills and the things that they have learned has to be a starting point for those who are going into schools, and for those who are deciding that they've learned a lot about their children, and they see the way that their children have learned and benefited from the lockdown. They have to continue that journey, because you start to build on their strengths, and that's how you get confident young people. When they go back into school, they have a chance to be confident if they put their hand up and they get selected. In a class of 35, your chance of that, and I will tell you from experience, is about once every 3 weeks, to be fair to everybody else.
Right.
So that you don't have the teacher zooming in on one child all the time and the rest feeling, well, I had my hand up and nobody looks at me. Your turn is another 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the line, if you need to be fair to everyone.
Okay.
So it's building on those strengths and exploring different things. And I mean, one of the life skills are far more important. So one of the things that I think parents should do with their children, some of them have already done, and there's nothing wrong. So okay, I've got £600. I'm just calling up, and we've got to pay electricity, gas, water, food. Let's sit down and budget. And so that you start teaching children very early the importance of staying within their spending limits.
Right.
We go to the supermarket, we go to the market, okay, fine. And let's start looking for the best prices and the best value for money. And those life skills will stay with those children forever. And it doesn't mean that you have to, eat like a pauper. You can actually eat pretty well if you know where to shop. And that is where lockdown had the opportunity for a lot of parents to, hone those skills with their children, so that the children don't just understand, things just appear, and they don't know how it appears, when it appears. They are part of that journey too, and part of the psychology that gets it to them. And, you will see a different set of mindset. And I think if schools don't build on those new people who have come back into school, they've been losing out an opportunity of a lifetime, because they will never catch up. Now, the academic side of it, they go back in, and as I said, rewind and start again. It's only a year out. There's no big deal. I'm not getting any, but you're 16. There is no magic trigger that says the children must learn everything at different times. So at 5 they must learn this, at 11 they must learn this, and at 16, no. Because you will have some children who will pick up things very easily, some children who take extra time, and that has to be accounted for, and that are taken into account. So yes, as I said, for every person, it's different. For every household, it's different, and it's just learning together. Family learning together. Don't ever discount that. It is so important. If nothing else, the lockdown, from that point of view, for those parents or those families that took the opportunity to do that, they're the ones who are blessed. And to go out and to share that with other families who have not, felt that they've not been so lucky because they felt that they were not academically up to scratch. Sharing, well, what have your children, or what have you learned from your children? What have your children learned from you? Sit down and, you can have your own family book club. We used to have, when my children were younger, we would have non-technology weeks. And there was no television, there's no radio. And
A whole week
learn to sit down and talk with each
with
other.
no TV and no phone and all, and no tablet,
no phones, no
and all
television,
these
no radio, no nothing.
a
And it
whole
was
week.
brilliant. And it got to a stage where the children, can we have a non-technology week again?
Wow.
You know?
Yeah,
You know,
I would
have
agree.
had children come to me who said, oh, you know, when we talk about reading, everything I want to find out, I Google it on my phone. And I remember one lunchtime I got them into reading. I just put a book out and they got into reading. And one lunchtime I sat down and looked out, and the children were sitting in the garden, and every single child, these are teenage boys, every single one was reading. And I thought, oh my God, if they were in school, they'd be there playing on their phones or whatever. Every single one was reading. Well, at the end of it, I said, okay, let's come back in now, next session. And they came in talking about what they were reading. And I thought, this is what it's all about.
Madness.
You know, they're sharing something. Take the technology away.
Yes.
And they sit down and they learn things about each other because they learn to communicate.
Yes.
You know, they're talking with each other. You know, they're sharing ideas and they're sharing information, and that is what it's all about. You know, and those are the young people who are going to be successful because they have walked the talk. You know, so, yeah, you know, you know, of course, technology is fun, you know, fantastic. I keep telling myself that I'm not exactly a technophobe, but you know, I can do without it sometimes. I love
everything in its place. I agree.
Everything
So do I.
all the time. Yes.
Yeah, man.
But I mean,
Yeah, I'm the kind of person I don't even like.
It's not as hard as it sounds.
No, I was gonna say I don't even like ebooks too tough. I like to have the physical. You know, when I feel my book them. You know what I mean? And smell them and all them something. Anyway, I'm working on my telepathy. And I feel like Sister Novena-Chanel's got a contribution to that, like her mind's ticking, and she wants to say something right now. So let me just give her the opportunity.
It's working. I was beaming in on you.
I can feel it. I can feel it. Yeah, you know?
No, I do agree with you, Kay, completely. But I do think we, as Brother Ziggy said, very, very clearly and very honestly, we're in a very privileged position as homeschoolers. There's a lot of families that cannot financially homeschool. They have to work. And the pressure of this is why a lot of the families, you're seeing the toxic side of the parenting coming out, because the families are on the breadline. They're struggling with this. And what you said was, I talk about this all the time with people when I talk about home education. Home education is one thing, homeschooling is a different thing. And people are looking at the homeschooling. You're trying to, as you said, replicate the school day at home. That doesn't work. You're not a school system. You're not a number of different teachers. You're one parent or two parents. Home education is a very different thing. And as you said, Sister Moore, and I do with my son as well, our home education is, my son found a queen bee in our garden and we put it into a glass jar. We watched the bee movie. We then went to investigate about the life cycle of a bee. We did some biology. I made my 5-year-old write a report about how bees live and why is it ethically okay or not okay to eat honey. That is home education. That is not homeschooling, because they're only trying to look at the national curriculum and fit in X, Y, Z in one day for your poor baby's head, who needs to sometimes actually absorb the learning before you move on to a next test. So I agree with you completely. And I do hear why some families are really struggling. I do think it's acknowledging them as well. That it's not an easy option. And you can't just suddenly go from seeing your child in the evening on the weekends to 24 hours a day, 365, because it's a shock to the child and to you. And I do think we have to also give that empathy that for some parents, I recently had the BBC interview, and one of the things the interviewer said to me was, is it not arrogant of me? I'm not qualified to home educate my child. So it gives this belief that you have to be educated to home educate, and you do not need any qualification to home educate your child. You as a parent are teaching your child from, especially as a mother, from the child in your womb, it's learning language. From when they're seeing you just talking like this, they're learning communication. So I think there's that intentional miscommunication about what homeschooling and what home education is, and trying to almost break your confidence a little bit. But you talked about the child-centered learning. And I think I saw a Black British parent pop up about it. It doesn't work for everyone, because some children will do well with teacher-led. It's the learning styles. But I do think there's a bit of a fear governmentally that we're going to make this revolutionary generation that think for themselves. And that are able to think out of the box and ask a lot of questions and challenge the system. And then also that means finances get pulled, because if you've got a child interested in this in the class and that in the class, that teacher who may be limited in their resources, their time, they're also being tested themselves on how they're running the class, and if they're meeting certain standards, they can't contain it if a school's not in support of them. So I think that's why also there's that little bit of that push to keep them centralized, keep the learning at a certain level. Does that make sense?
Manage, yeah. No, because yes. No, yeah, because literally that's what the person who I had in mind, not just her, we're saying that, you know, children should be seated in classrooms in rows, and you know what I'm saying, that this is the way to learn, and that's not to say that
person learned,
right. And I'm saying that's not to say that there's not a value behind that style, right? It has its usage within a particular context, but to say that is the way, you know, to structure learning, I think is rather short-sighted and a little bit lazy, to be honest with you.
It's quite arrogant that it's the right way, and because you learn that way, that's how other people must learn, because it's that thing, we must all be left brain or right brain or this brain or that brain, and that's how people get quite limited, and then they have an issue with you if you believe or learn differently. So they're trying to pull us into the way they learn.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just like, I just want to add on to what has been said in reference to this, just from my personal experience, that when I think about education, I kind of look at homeschooling and home education as one. And the reason why, just from my personal experience, because we're not meant to do it alone anyway. And so I think right now the power is in us coming together. So when we think about, I can speak about my own organizations with Liberated Minds, our goal has been to be the bridge with those who are in the public school system and know that that's not what they want for their children. I've had thousands, and I literally say thousands of parents that have said, well, I can't quit my job and I can't do this, and I don't have a college education. Some of them, I haven't even graduated from high school, and they're now thriving with their children because of coming together. Right. So I think it becomes about looking at what we do have and not what we don't have, what we would like to do and not what we think we don't have the resources for, because we have abundance all around us. And if we don't see the abundance to create and to actualize everything it is we want to do, and I do say everything, right? Then there's a different way that we need to look at things. And sometimes that comes from connecting with other people that have a different outlook, that this is possible. Because I didn't have the finances, you know, in the beginning. And I wasn't supported at the time. With my husband at the time was like, I don't know what you're doing. Nobody does this. You know what I mean? It's like you way out on the limb, you know, and I was like, I don't know either, but I know what I know in my spirit, that I'm not going to sacrifice my children to something that I know is not of them. So sometimes it's just finding your way. And when we talk about homeschool collectives and co-ops, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to quit your job. So with our homeschool collective in Atlanta, we had some parents who educated on certain days, and we had the children on other days. And one parent was good at science, and one parent said, well, I'm not good at science. And everybody contributed, which is what education is really about. Right. You know, it's about it. We can't give them it. We shouldn't be giving it all to them. We can't. And so because it's a reciprocal process, like our children come here to educate us just as much as we come to educate them. They're pulling out of us our divine purpose, while we should be pulling out of them their divine purpose. They were born to us for a reason, right? And we are their parents for a reason. And it's on the spiritual level, we may not know what all that is, right? And on all those little nuances of that, but we know the reality of that bond and connection that's there. So I think what happens is it's a responsibility for those of us who do know to share the ways of how it can be done. And now there's so many different ways, hybrid ways. Some people are in, you know, some parents homeschool and they say, oh yeah, I'm gonna work with them 2 days and the rest of the week, I'm gonna send them over here to this homeschool group. I'm gonna send them here to take 2 classes, or they're gonna take 2 classes online, and then they were gonna come over here and work with them here. So in homeschooling doesn't have to take place during the regular hours.
Yes.
For 4 hours, it could be in the evening. It could be 2 hours in the rising, 2 hours in the evening. It could be, someone else who comes in and says, hey, I'll tutor your children if you'll do this for me. I want to learn how to cook vegan food. Can you teach me this? And I'll do that. You have to get out of the mindset of thinking that money is always the barrier. It's our knowledge. We hold ourselves back, the way we view ourselves. And the more we encourage and support each other as brothers and sisters and say, hey, I get it. Sometimes, we're at our lowest point. And the lowest point sometimes could shoot us up to the highest star because of someone who's there with us, supporting us and saying, let me show you what I have accomplished through what I've been through. Because I've been there with my lights off, with the candles burning. And I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty cool because nobody's on the phone. We're sitting, we're talking, we're reminiscing. There are those gifts in those moments of like, what is happening? Especially if the right people around you. So I think it's about when we want to accomplish something, you put yourself around others who think like where you want to be, who live like where you want to be, who support you, right? Not an environment where we're pulling you to knowledge, but sharing information. We're sharing the wisdom. Bringing the elders in our life, whatever elders, if it's just one elder, sometimes they don't necessarily have to be on this so-called African-centered journey because a lot of our elders are African-centered in the way they think and the way they do things. Because they don't have an African-centered clothes, we feel like, it's all the separation of all these different things. School, they're the homeschoolers, we're the public schoolers, we're all African people and we want the best for our children, for our families. How we go about, piecing that together may look very differently. And my thing is, everyone has their individual choice, but we should not make the choice based upon fear and lack of knowledge. Because there's enough of us out here who have the knowledge, who have the will, who have the want. In my 25 years of homeschooling, in the very beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't really care. I was like, they're not going there. I'm sure about that. So when we take a stand, taking that stance means everything. And then things will begin to open up. We can speak the words into existence. Write it down, speak it, begin to talk to people, because everything we need will be sent to us. We have to know that. We have to trust. And I think a lot of this that we've done by relinquishing our power as parents, it has created a lack of trust in what we are able to do in nurturing and cultivating our children. We are the first educators. So why are we allowing someone else to step in and do that? So I hear what you're saying, and I'm in total agreement. I'm in agreement in a way that's for those who have that mindset, and that is the power of what this is right here, the dialogue. That's the power of the each one teach one. The power of us not judging each other, and the power of stepping in when you see other families and other children who need assistance. Pulling it all together. So that's always been my vision, my perspective. Even when I didn't know, I was sitting under the tree at Central Park when I lived in New York City. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Let's go to the museum. Let's research this. Okay, we got to do science. We got to, and I'm just pulling. But I always made sure it was very important that there's joy. There's joy in the learning experience. There's joy in the family bonding. Those are the things that create the deepest level of learning. When you can have a positive experience connected to some information, it's embedded, just like the opposite. A traumatic experience connected to the education, and we think about all of us that have gone through the curriculum trauma. I can think about, the different schools and teachers I had that were like, they were not trying to check for me at all, and I'm just like, I think back, and it did put a stain on my ability to be able to do certain subject matters. But my parents, on the other hand, they were like, okay, this is, you got to think outside the box. I watched their example. It wasn't always easy, but it was the drive. And I think the drive came from those around me. Of course, it's within me, from those around me supporting me. So we have to support each other. We have to support each other with this.
Most definitely. Thank you very much, Queen Taese. I just want to say, Big up to Black British Parent in the building. Do you know what I'm saying? If you don't know, get to know about Black British Parent and works that are going on there, parent support groups and everything there in relation to education. And also big up to Holistic Art Center as well. You know what I'm saying? For the works that are going on in the community. Kings and Queens, the link is in the chat. And if you want to come on and interact with our illustrious panel of educators, please feel free to do so, and do so soon. Don't wait till half hour time, because we soon lock off the show when them time they come. All right, so you know what I'm saying, early birds catch worm and all these things. So don't sit down now and say, well, let me wait now. And no, click the link and come through and ask the question and interact with the people them. All right, Kings and Queens, so the link is in the chat. You can find it right here. The link is in the chat if you want to come and speak to Queen Taese, Sister Novena-Chanel, and also Auntie K. Johnston. I mean, Sister Moore, take it away.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation and the richness and the depth of this conversation, because, fear in itself is an industry. Yeah, and we recognize the power of it. And, without taking away from anything that Ziggy says, I think it's very important, the demographic of young people that he works with and the challenges that he works with a lot of young people. We have to recognize that
they're real.
Young people
very real.
Yeah, it's very real. Young people are in, very difficult situations. Some of them are failing or were failing before this situation. In the school system's eyes, then, not in the world. Let's be clear. Yeah, because the school system assumes that if you fail school, you fail everything. Yeah, and so, but for those parents who have had their young people have been struggling already in school and had challenges previously, and then they're going through these times, I recognize that. If I look at my eldest one, who's at a university now, 21, the lockdown, when it took place, his Earth Day was taking place, right? And his 20th Earth Day on the same day, yeah? And so you can imagine, I can't imagine the impact. Yeah, I can really imagine that.
20th birthday there. Are you mad?
Exactly, and then the 21st.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Again. That's what. Are you? Hey, man's vexed. You can't get back them time there, though. Yeah,
of course.
How serious is that?
But on a serious note, what I'm saying is, he's at university at the time. He's, his area is politics. Yeah. So he's used to being in an environment where you debate, where you're interacting with people. And I think if out of all my children, he's had the most challenge. Because it happened at a time where, he's geared, he's been, his focus has been politics since he was 12. So his thing is like, and now it's crash bang wallop, in this situation for him. So I recognize the struggle that happens for him, the emotional struggle, there's a part of him that he's thinking about maybe deferring, and I recognize that, and I'm okay with it, because I recognize, he's been in the education for so long, and he's not getting the quality education that he signed up for, and so there's all of that. And if you're getting the quality, should they be paying this, that, and the other for it if they're not getting the quality education? They've got skeleton staff, they're hardly doing any sessions. He's a very, in his field, he's also very kinesthetic in that way, so he allows himself to really engage. And I recognize the challenges, and I think someone like Ziggy would be if my son was younger, I would be sending my son, to that son in particular, to him to manage that part of him. I recognize with my younger ones who are still fresh in their learning and their development and their formative years or puberty, going through lots of transitions, it was easier for them than obviously it was for him. So I recognize that, and I have to. So that's why I don't want to take anything away from what he's saying, because I recognize there is fear. There's in my son's mind, there's genuine concern about, okay, what does his actual career now look like now? And a lot of young people do feel like that right now, depending on their age. So I want to be able to say that, but I recognize we are in a unique position, and I do feel very blessed to be in a position where I can assist my children. I've always been very hands-on anyway, so this has just been the added push that I wanted, that I desired, and so here it is. And you know, I want to go back to what Kay, you said earlier. You talked about the the importance of economics and that kind of thing, and you know, what comes to mind is a term, you know, there's economize and economic wise, yeah, and what we would talk about in the Caribbean. And I would say that's one of the things that, you know, our children can learn. We know that our children in this day and time, in terms of, you know, inheritance, in terms of mortgages, and financially, it's a different terrain to when we were younger. Yeah, very different terrain. So be learning to manage your finances from a very young age in a playful way, in a way that even my middle one now, when he pops off to the shop, he's much more aware than when he was before the situation occurred. He is much more like, okay, well, if I go to the shop, I might buy that one, but I might, let's say he wants to buy, I don't know, let's say he wants to buy a packet of crisps then. So here's £1 for, you know, for a packet of crisps. You're buying a packet of crisps, but there's a 6-pack of crisps. So, and you're going to get more for your money. So, you know, he's starting to work out, okay, these are important things. And these are skills, again, that he's going to use in his adult life. He's not going to just be, you know, we have to understand that we are molding our children in a certain way, and we have to allow our children to recognize these things that, again, they won't learn in school. They won't have those unless they actually go into an environment where, and even in economics, they don't even learn that. So we recognize that these life skills are very important. We are in a very privileged position to be able to do that. But I do see that there are parents out here who are on the cusp. There'll be parents on the cusp. We can speak, you know, jovially about it, but there are parents who are really struggling, yeah, and parents who are really struggling with, you know, even the choice to whether to stay in school or not. Remember, we've got a situation where they want children to overrule the parents in order to take the vaccine, right? So we recognize in that situation, again, even if you put your children in that situation right now, even if your child is a child that will not consent, the pressure of consent will be there from other peers. Yeah. So I recognize that there are a lot of parents going through lots of different spaces inside of that. And I think it's important for us to understand that level and what we can do. Yeah, I know that I do my part if parents come to me, but as educators in the community, how important it is for us to empower our children at this time and empower the parents at this time. You know, when we talk about that collective education and sending our child here for this, and I think it's been very powerful for more people. In fact, my children are going over to their aunties. One of my aunties loves, one of my sisters loves cooking. And so they're going, she's booked today to have them cook, you know, tell me what the ingredients are, what have you. And those kinds of things wouldn't have necessarily taken place quite like that if I wasn't thinking from a collective mind, like, okay, these are the strengths of my children. My child likes this, but this child likes that. You know, does one not have that? And that one has that? Or do we have a combination of blended learning, a very important structure that, again, can't happen obviously in school. Often blended learning is only coming to the forefront now, and that's actually often much of that is in higher education. They're happy to do a lot of that blended learning for, like, maybe if you like adult education or higher education. But a lot of that is still teachers, again, they come with their own insecurities, they come with their own concerns about this time. And that's one of the things I noticed when my children were I took my children out of school. I noticed immediately that the same teachers I got on with, immediately when it came to getting their end of year report, the hostility inside of the space to go and get it, and you need to be here and you need to do that, and it wasn't the same. The environment had completely changed. It didn't matter that, you know, you really got on well with the teacher or you had a rapport with that teacher at this point. The fear, their own fears were coming through the children. And so we have to recognize that that's an important factor. Fear is, like I said, an industry, and it is very profound right now with everything that's going on. And I suppose I would like to just I suppose, ask the panel on some level. And again, don't forget to come inside of the discussion if you want to. The link is in the chat. Engage in the discussion if you want to. We're open to that. We are going to close the show in about half an hour, so this is your time. But it is very, very important that we as parents, as educators, and again, that definition between home education and homeschooling, and recognizing that, you know, when I got the work, I just said, okay, this is okay, but you know, again, you're not going to even know. There were certain things. I'll give you an example. My son's teacher, it was so unique, their relationship in her classroom, that she had a kind of code when it came to maths. So when it came to doing the work at home, only that class would know it. You couldn't find it online because she had a particular code. So she was like, okay, she'll put pictures here. So once they were out of education and were getting some of the work home to start with, I was like, okay, so do you remember that? He had to now recall as much as he could, and he was still learning this code around her method of maths, which, as much as she was a good teacher in her own right, was, if you like, impeding him in getting the maths the way he needed it. So that, for me, was like, okay, homeschooling is not for me. Home education now, where I just like, okay, let's just start from ground zero. Let's just look at this and look at who you are and what your skill set is at this stage in your life, and where you're at. And I got a whole year or so to really learn and engage. I mean, I know my children, I'm very engaged with my children, but I had a whole new level of learning about them from a whole new place. And I think one of the things, if I have anything to say to other parents, is regardless if they're in education, home education, school education, the importance of knowing your child at this point is so important, so crucial, because the times we are in right now are so volatile, and they could be in and out of school at any time. And so knowing how your children learn, knowing what their strengths are, taking hold of, you know, separating your fears for what's going on out there with your fears for your actual children. Because when you look at your children, you know, half of them are not scared. Half of them just want to be at home. They don't care. And, you know, find a lot of parents, you know, their children weren't going, you know, didn't want to do the work, and they were struggling to get their children to even do some of the work. And I recognize that, again, it was going through the teenage thing. And I think Ziggy would understand that was probably one of the big things, because I was hearing a lot about teenagers. The primary education, they were adapting very well, but a secondary education, they weren't. So I feel fortunate that my son now is in education where he is at that secondary age, but he's getting a home education provision. So I recognize that Miss K is our educator, and so I recognize that space for him inside of this. But I want to balance out the conversation in some way and ask you all here on some level what you feel as educators, parents can do to empower themselves going forward, because again, we don't know where this is going. I would just Miss K, please.
I need to be on. Yeah, one thing, bringing parents together is we can have the each one teach one approach, because parents as well as children have got skills, some of them that they haven't tapped into for a long time because their lives are too busy. So when you've got parents who begin to feel, oh, I'm not good enough, we bring the parents together. Okay, what can you share? What do you like making? What do you like cooking? What other language? And you get parents in their own little forum beginning to teach each other, and then teach each other's children what they know. And that is very empowering for everybody. And that's, you know, again, that's the village coming together to educate each other and the children. You know, so again, you know, I'm listening to education again, and we're seeing education from very much an academic side. Life is education. You know, education is life. You know, you learn something about people, about how they think, about how they move, you know, every day. It is an education. It isn't just what you can write and what we can regurgitate and put in an exam again. You know, because at the end of the day, that's not what's going to get you through life. It's how quickly you can think on your feet. How can you, you know, how often you can think outside the box. You know, And that's what's going to get you through. Giving, feeling confident to stand up and talk about how you feel. So, I do what I call Frank time once a month. And that's when it's a very informal afternoon, and we just sit and talk about how you handle certain situations and listen to how, and I would perhaps start off and say, well, okay, on this one, I have some prompt cards for those who are, this is how I would handle this. What about you? Or what sort of issues do you have that you feel that you'd like to get out? And let's hear from the others how they could support you. And we can have more of that. I've mentored parents, I've mentored children. At one stage, I was mentoring 17 children a week and 2 parents. Because sometimes we have parents who have got hang-ups, as particularly around school. If their own schooling was, they've had negative experiences, and without even realizing it, they project that onto their own children. And so when you get them talking about, this is because you had a negative experience of school. It doesn't mean that your child is going to have a negative experience of school, because they're very suspicious of everything. This is something I said on the radio show a couple of weeks ago. We go past some schools and we see some community school and think, okay, does that mean it's only served the children from the community? I beg to differ on that one. When you have a community school, it means that the parents must be able to come in and benefit from those facilities that the school has got to. It's not every time the phone rings, okay, what's he done now? Because parents get into the habit of thinking that you're only called upon when something has gone wrong. So they become very fearful of school. I've had, when I worked in mainstream, I've had parents who came in. I had special classes for those parents who left school with nothing to come in and do something. And a lot of those parents, some of them who had their children quite early, they got pregnant at 14, 15 and just disappeared off the radar at school. And they spent time bringing up their families, and then they suddenly realized, oh, my son's back at school and I don't have an education. I can't get a job. Oh, no, there's no such thing as can't. I had parents whose English was not very good, and I had another class with those to get their literacy skills up to scratch. And then we started showing them how they could, find jobs. And, before that folded, we have 4 parents we got into work. By getting their skills up and their confidence up and showing them how to do CV writing and how to write supporting statements or cover letters that will follow an application, how to fill an application form, how to do mock interviews and things like that, so that we get them into the world of work if that's what they want to do. But even so, it was just that confidence in building up their literacy skills, their numeracy skills, their ICT skills. And if schools opened up so that parents came in, and you'd be surprised to know how, without you trying to use that as a way of upskilling the behavior. If children know that their parents are going to be on board, let's say even if they come in at 3:30, and Johnny knows that his teacher's going to pop in and mom is going to, how was he today? And she's getting a daily update or a weekly update. Because when parents are benefiting from the children and they're doing it 30 years after they've left school, they will go home and drive their children. Listen, I'm 40 now and I'm not trying to get what you're getting now at 13. I don't want you to be like me. That is why you need to get it right now. And so again, that helps to drive up the ambitions and the abilities just within that household. And then you have forums where the parents will meet and they can sit and talk about things and show each other how they do things. Even if it's, at one stage, I make dolls. And at one stage, I thought I would have an afternoon where we show parents how to do it so that they can go on and sell them if they wanted to and make some money. It could be sharing different types of cuisine, Nigerian cooking, Ghanaian cooking, Jamaican cooking, Guyanese cooking, or whatever. And they have that where they can showcase their work. And then we can have, not just, a sort of like a little fair where they can come in and the rest of the community can come in and sample it. They can buy it. and you set them up in their own businesses that way. But that is the true meaning of community. But more importantly, I think, you know, as we're coming towards the end of this show, the most important thing that a parent can clothe their children with, and this is whether they're home educating or sending the children to school, is attitude. Never mind the uniform or the pencil case and the kit and everything else, attitude, because that is what I'm going to get you through life. If the children have a poor attitude, or the parent has got a poor attitude and that rubs off on the child, they will get nowhere. And people with poor attitudes, it doesn't matter if they're the CEO, are very lonely people, because everybody else will avoid that person. But so in order to get through life, it is important to have a good attitude. It doesn't mean that you have to be the brightest spark at everything. I will be the first to say I wasn't the brightest spark at school. And everything that I did, I felt like I had to learn harder than everybody else, or work harder than everybody else. Looking back as an adult, I felt, you know, a lot of my teachers didn't know or understood or wanted to know how I learned. And I was just part of the herd that was expected to just go. I had a different way of processing things, and I still do, which is why I'm happy to remain on the outside of the system now, because I am free to be different. You know, when I was a child growing up, I felt I had to be part of, you know, because that was the accepted thing, that was the norm. I'm happily on the outside, and that's it, you know, and I am free to be me. And that is, you know, very, very important, you know, that the children understand that from there, that you must be free to be who you are. They're not trying to fit in like a square peg in a round hole, because that is what makes it easier for everybody else. And that's, you know, don't be afraid to stand out.
Yes, Auntie.
And some people will love you for it, and some people won't. That's absolutely fine. I'm
yes.
I'm not making any pretenses that I want to be part of what is the norm, because I've been there in the norm for several years. I'm 65 now, and yeah, I can please myself. I'm old enough to please myself. But I mean, the young people that I work with, I do try and instill that in them. Be yourself.
Yes,
what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And that's what you start aiming for.
Good
some
fact.
people will like you and some people will not. You know, we don't have to like everybody. As a matter of fact, I would think, you know, you lack discernment if you went around liking everybody that you meet. Not everybody has to like you too. That's absolutely fine.
Most definitely.
That, you know,
Thank you, Auntie. What's there? Serious words, you know, serious words. No people don't like me, you know, I'm in no business. You know what I mean? But I want to give Queen Taese and Sister Novena-Chanel an opportunity to respond to what Sister Mutt said as well. But we are coming to the close, and I want to throw a couple things for consideration in here. One is this idea of learning styles, yeah. And as an educator, I'm a little bit this way and that way with specific learning styles, because I wonder if we kind of pigeonhole our children, because I feel like children are able to learn in different ways. There are different styles of learning, and our children can learn in multiple ways, right? I don't think that children generally have one way of learning. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'd like for you both to address that. And finally, this all sounds very good, beautiful, but like a lot of these examples are related to like things like cooking, you know what I'm saying? You know, preparing flowers and what up to science? what I know about science and mathematics, yeah? You know what I'm saying? Like we want the children to get the rigors of science and maths in today's world. and all this home education stuff sounds like they're gonna learn from bake excellently and write excellently, but they're not gonna learn science and engineering, you know what I'm saying, and astrophysics, yeah, and mathematics. What are you address them subject there in relation to?
I'm gonna play angel's advocate here, right?
Go on.
Because I think what's important is, and I appreciate what you're saying, because when a baby is born, a baby is naturally kinesthetic. It learns through touch and feeling. As we develop, we have maybe our learning styles develop, you know, as we get older and in different situations. So I can say for my oldest one, he used to be a visual kinesthetic, but now he's more of an auditory kinesthetic, and that's developed over time. I recognize that, and I think You know, we have a microscope at home. We go out and we look at leaves, and we use science. We talk about metaphysics, yeah, the power to create. We use lots of sciences, and I think again, we have to look at the age bracket of the children, yeah, because when they're really small, you're going to do a lot of exploring. You know, look at bugs, look at how they're like the life cycle of bugs. Those kinds of things come. I often find that you can't push those things. You can teach those things, but you can't push science on a child. You can't push anything on a child in particular. But what you can do is guide them in those areas, because and look at what they actually need to know. Yeah, which is very, very important. I find that when, you know, going back to what was said earlier about child-centered, yeah, and we always talk about how the school system doesn't function. It's not child-centered approach, and our children often fall through the net. I fell through the net at school in my own way, when, you know, because it was not child-centered, and if you're a visual kinesthetic, that's going to be tricky if everything is auditory and you've just got to learn everything by rote. Yeah, and so we've moved along from those things, but I think it's also about the patience of learning their minds. I often found myself, I remember when my eldest was 3 years old, and I was not sure at this stage what he should learn most. Should he start with his letters, or should we start with maths? Yeah, like, okay, he could speak and everything else. And then I had two books, and the books were exactly the same, if you like, the type of book, same author, but one was maths and one was English. And I said to myself, you know what? I just don't know. Yeah. So I put both of the books in front of him, and I made him choose. Yeah. And when I made him choose it, he picked up the maths book. And from that point, now I wouldn't say he's maths orientated now, but in secondary school, maths became his thing. Then he put away maths because he didn't take it necessary to need it after GCSE. And then and mainly English became his thing. So I think it was kind of like in terms of literature or writing. So I think if we keep an observation on our children, those things come naturally. If we're observing the children enough, we will notice, okay, you know what? He really has an interest in science. He really has an interest in sport. He really has an interest in music. Like, you start to pick up those things. And so then, you know, if we think about ourselves, what would our education have looked like had we had at this approach on us, and who would have we become? Doesn't say it.
Queen Taese, Novena-Chanel. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Auntie.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce a term, knowledge harvest. That's where you start. You know, you start with what that child knows already. And we don't assume that everybody comes in like a blank slate. It doesn't matter how young that child is, and you build on that. And that is how you will keep them engaged. Because if you come in assuming that everybody's at point zero and you're the only one who's going to get them up, you will switch off. The majority of children will just sit there. It will go in one ear, and they will just sit there quietly, and they will get passed over. And that's how you get those children who just move from one grade to the next. And then you suddenly find that they're ready to leave school, and they haven't taken in anything since the beginning of year 7. And it happens, and that is why we get children doing so poorly at GCSE, because nobody is built on what they already know, and they're just trying to push one method down. Well, this is the only way you're going to get, and this is why the GCSEs don't work for it. You know, okay, they use as a measure of success, but by and large, they don't work because it's all what you can regurgitate, what you can remember. Nobody's building on what that child knows, what that child is interested in, because that is how you will get their engagement, and you build it, and you will have the most phenomenal pioneers and goodness knows what else. I've had one of my young people who, you know, she is an expert at STEM. I mean, when we have a STEM afternoon, she would, you know, while everybody's still looking at the instructions, she will have a robot walking across the table or whatever. And I said, you know, you need to go for a career in STEM. And she would just laugh it off and say, oh, I want to be a model and I want to be a rapper. I said, okay. So the last thing I told her, I said, I believe in your abilities, and I'm not, I'm looking at you as the next pilot. I will pay for your first flying lesson, and at the end of it, you'll let me know is this where you want to go? And I'm doing this on a symbolic level because I see you flying high. And it's fine. You're very pretty. You want to be the model. That's fine. You can do that on the side. I want to see you flying high because that is where your greatness is. And we left it at that. And I will honor that. And I will pay for her first flying lesson. I will take her to there, strip herself myself, and get her up there and see. Let her understand that that's the pinnacle that she has to be aiming for. Flying high, aiming high.
Thank you very much, Auntie. And we're going to open up to Queen Taese and Sister Novena-Chanel if you have any contributions to make here.
Yes, I mean, I'm right in alignment with that. When we support our children in the things that they love, that's where the rigor comes, because they're going to do it on the deepest level possible. And sometimes we're so worried about, them knowing everything and being proficient in everything. But when we think about ourselves, is there any of us, are we proficient in everything, in every subject on the deepest level? But because in order to be proficient in everything, we can't really go that deep in it. There's not that much time in a day. So finding where their passions are, that what resonates with their spirit and their soul, those are the areas that they're showing us that they can thrive in. And it's the rigor comes from the continuity of what we're feeding them in alignment with that. It doesn't mean they don't learn other subjects, but we know that we all come here for our different divine purposes. And if we're focused on everything that's not of our divine purpose, right? And not what they're showing us, they're giving us the signs and the symbols that this is what I love and this is what I enjoy, then they can be the best at it. And a lot of times, especially with the social media, with the news, they're always telling everybody, oh, your children need to go in this direction. They need to do this because this is the hottest career. But all of that is in alignment with the governmental wishes, where they're looking to go and where they need some servitude, right? To assist in their mission. And so I think if you look at the overall of what we need as African people and find how our children can thrive within that, whether they're entrepreneurs or whether they work for others, everyone has their different lane. However, the highest level of skill, some of the careers haven't even been created yet. Our children may be the ones to bring that forward. When we educate them with a consciousness of who they are and that they don't necessarily have to follow everything that's out here, that they have to create their own reality as they're moving through. I think also with educating through homeschooling, I've been able to challenge some of those thoughts. So instead of just saying, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, these are the days of the week, we get into, okay, but what is that representing? And that those are our, when we talk about our libations and calling on our ancestors, their whole culture is embedded in everything, the days of the week, the months of the year, what they call the stars, what they call the planets. So getting them to reimagine, something that is of us, where we can choose, just like the plants or the flowers, they have 20 different names. Is there a name that's right or wrong? So I remember my son saying to me one day, oh, that's a such and such tree. And it was like, I don't know. I said, that's a heart tree. And someone said, no, that's an oak tree. And I said, no, it could be a heart tree. Like someone else called it that. Someone else gave it that name based upon their own perception. So when we open up our children's minds to, infinite possibilities and not locking them into one way of thinking and that someone else has decided what is fact for us, they begin to, when they come into that rigorous standpoint, they now know they can go beyond that. They don't have to stay within that. And I think this is how our ancestors have created for, over thousands of years, all the things we see that cannot be replicated, the pyramids and beyond, So I think it all comes back down to the mindset, and an expansion of thought, critical thinking, all of those elements that really bring that rigor about. And I want to say one last thing, which I always say, is that our culture is our cure. So any challenges that we are having, our culture is our cure. We can go to our culture as the main reference, not the side book put over here on the side and we're functioning here, but as the main reference to how we can heal, whether it's social problems, whether it's family problems, whether it's educational, whether it's spiritual. We have ourselves as the guide for that. And so it's just digging deep and going to those who recognize that as well. Very important.
Thank you very much, Queen Taese. Give thanks, Sister Novena-Chanel.
Hey, yeah, really interesting. I do believe in the cultural element. That's your social context as well. But I think the main question was for a parent that's starting out, what kind of advice do they need? And I think that's really important. But if it comes to this about home ed, I would say, first and foremost, get a feel for your child. Before you worry about any of the learning, just take time, sit back and learn about your child and have an idea what your child to actually learn and know. So what do you want them to know? What is important? What's your core values as a parent? What do you want that child to pass on legacy? What epigenetic things are going on in your family within you? You want to kind of reverse or break within your child, and you go from there. You asked about learning styles. I want to just give you a basic idea of touching every single learning style. At the film club, firstly, as Auntie Kay, Miss Kay said, is that yes, it is about the community. In our film club, we actually have a therapist that sits in a separate room with the parents, not doing therapy, but just actually so they can communicate, talk about the struggles, release some steam and get that support. So it's very important. It starts with that parent and it goes down to the child. But then also with your child, if you get to know who they are, as you mentioned about the science and stuff, science isn't everything. So I don't 100% agree with that. It's in everything. My son was asking me if he could use my cream. So I was saying, let me tell you something. Let me tell you a bit about chemistry. The cost of this element that you want to use, that is it. You're breaking it down. So we had a scientist called Dr. Daniel Twum that spoke to the children on Wednesday via Zoom from the States. So all these people are available to us to use with our children, but every day is science. Your child is putting food into an oven. If you are taking time to actually really nurture that inquiring mind, how do you think that comes together? How much flour is that? How comes the baking soda makes the things get fizzy? Let's go and find out about that. That is science. So you can really nurture it. But again, so a basic idea for a parent is have a lesson plan. Not like a school, but this is I want them to learn. I'm going to use these tools and this will be the outcome. And this is how I'll check to understand the outcome. So we use Netflix. There's like a 20-minute film on Pearl. It's about a ball of wool that goes into an office. She's pink. They're all yellow. She wants to fit in. She goes through this inner tone of whether she should adapt to who they are or not. So they watch the film. So those visual learners now are watching. When the film finishes, we discuss the film. So the linguistics are doing it. The ones that are interpersonal, intrapersonal, having discussions in their peer groups, then by themselves, they're going to talk about it. They come back again. I brought in balls of wool. So one person got the pink, the rest had the yellow. You're all holding that wool. What's the person in the one pink one? How do you feel? The ones in the yellow, how do you feel being the majority? What's it like sitting in each other's shoes? You're there now nurturing that emotional empathy. So all of that is hitting all of it. You got the logical thinker. So that is hitting everyone's learning style. And I do agree with you, there's not one learning style. I think people have strengths in some areas, but everything gets hit. But and people have different personality types. You have fixed personality type children where, and I see it quite a lot. If they don't think they're going to succeed in it or win in it, they won't try it. And it's their personality type. And if you try and push onto them and force them, you'll shut them down. So what you do is you learn to go around it. So, okay, so what are you good at? So how can we, you talk about the pilot and the model. I would actually conversely say, you're going to be a model. Awesome. Tell me how you're going to do your career. How are you going to fund that career? Tell me about some little side thing. I don't know the word hustle. Tell me about some side entrepreneurial things you're going to be doing. I don't hustle. I don't hustle. You're an entrepreneur. Yeah. So tell me about your entrepreneurial things. How you're going to fund that. So a pilot. If you know me, you look at my Instagram, I fly planes. I'm up for that 100%. So how does that work? How many people in that industry? How many models have side things? You can still nurture that without almost taking away their passion. So I think for a parent, again, get to know your child, do the inner work. So go online and learn about YouTube University. Learn about social development and child development. At certain ages, they need certain things. So we talk about the teens struggling in school right now during the pandemic because from 12, they start to form their peer groups and identity. Before that, it's about family and about everything else. That peer group is where they rebel a lot in teenage years. They're forming who they are. So if you, as a parent, just sit back on YouTube, get a few books if you can, learn that element, so you're actually understanding your child as well as who they are. Teaching them will become very easy because you'll learn how to work with them. So that would be my advice for someone starting out. And yes, the money thing, I'm very much the law of attraction person. The money will come, but also we have to be realistic. There are fixed mind children, there are fixed mind adults who cannot suddenly become entrepreneurs. They're not, it's not their mindset. So it's not for us to say, well, come on, now you're being limited. The universe is going to provide, just go out there, set up a business. Not everyone is that mindset. They've been taught to go through school, get their qualifications, get a good job with the government, and that is success. So it's looking at them again, how you work with that. Like, I am known as a LinkedIn stalker. You see, if I see you do something good, I'm following you on LinkedIn and I'm going to stalk you till you come and talk to my son. And we are going to, they've got the Black Cowboy Cafe in Elephant. Ask that man. We went as a family to go and talk to this man. My son had to get to know him. Dr. Danielle, ask her. I followed her. So she came to talk to us at the film club. Become that person that gets that knowledge for your children. So that would be my advice for someone homeschooling. Don't take on board all the other stuff. Just know your son or your daughter, know your children.
Most def. Sis, feel free to stalk me anytime. All right.
We grew up literally seeing each other every week. You just don't remember.
No, I do remember you. I don't remember seeing you every. I don't remember seeing you every week.
To go to that, was it every month? They used to have that thing where your parents, I mean, your dad used to run it.
Yeah.
It was you and your sister. You'd be drumming.
Yeah. No, but there's been a few of those things though, so we'll have to talk offline and look down exactly what that was. You know what I'm saying? You get me? But it's all good. Listen, family, we're basically over time right about now. I think it's important though, because you've all got things that are running right now. Yeah. So to end by letting people know what programs you've got on stream right about now and how they can get in touch with you. And we'll start with Auntie K. You're on mute, Auntie. You're still on mute, so for some reason, I'm not sure why. There we go. You're off mute now. Yes.
I am based in Lewisham, Hither Green in Lewisham. I work with home-educated children, and I basically fill in the gaps that some parents don't feel particularly confident in. I teach a range of subjects. I maths within my capability, and I'm the first to say that. Anything that's literacy based, I'm within my comfort zone. To that end, I also do French, Spanish, English, math, science. Black history is a stalwart. The history, geography, and for Key Stage 4, health and social care, business studies, and sociology.
Thank you very much, Auntie. You can get Auntie K at info@Enterprise Diamonds, abbreviation of school, SCH, yeah? Oh, so there should be one.
It should be just one S.
Just one S. All right, so we'll correct that. Yeah, so Enterprise Diamond SCH. Yeah. Once again, info@Enterprise Diamond SCH. You can get Auntie K.
Navena. That's right. Yeah.
.uk. Sorry, excuse me. Thank you very much. Novena-Chanel, go ahead.
Gosh, there we go. So we run the Mars Children's Film Club. So you can visit our website, www.themars, IMARS Children's Film Club. You can follow me on Instagram @Novena-Chanel, and you'll see all the businesses listed on there anyway. So everything's up there. And that's for any home support. If you want to come and join our film club once a week, 10 till 3. And just for general therapy, because I think as our community, there is a lot of epigenetic trauma that's kind of floating around. It's been really pushed during this lockdown period and all this fear. So that's kind of support as well. Feel free to come through.
Stay tuned, sis. We're definitely going to bring you back to talk more about that side of your work. Yeah. So do stay tuned. And Queen Taese, I mean, you always have 10 different things go on one time. So listen, this is the busiest woman in home education. I was wanting to say that right now. Yeah. But she's doing fantastic work. And I just want to say, because I've had some close-up preview of what she's doing at the moment, and it's an honor to have her here because I know she's tired. Yeah, she had no sleep for about a week at least. And so just to big up Queen Taese. But I'm just gonna ask you to just home in on what was launched on Tuesday, which is the Homeschool Hueniversity. International. You can get your children involved, family, if you want that support in terms of educating our children. As she said, you know, it's about having collectives, right? So there's a lot of training, and there's science, there's maths, hardcore maths, some high level maths that they're teaching these children. You know what I'm saying? And you can get it from babies all the way up to teenagers. Yeah. So talk about it, Queen Taese, let the people know go on. And once again,
yes, it's an exciting, it's definitely an exciting undertaking. What we've really done, our main core is the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Institute. And so that website is liberatedmindsinstitute.com. And so under that umbrella, we do our Black Homeschool Expo every year, which we just celebrated our 10th year, where families come from all over the country and all over the world to connect, fellowship, to train. You know, we have over 40 classes and resources at our African Center. So it's a great space where we come and we commune. So, you know, one of the things about the expo is that everyone is on such a high between the information, connecting with people, all of the resources, that it's like this big burst of energy that we have when we come together annually. And now the last 2 years doing it virtually, being able to impact even more families. So it's really just taking that vision, to be honest, because there is, you know, classes and workshops and trainings for the children, for the adults, for educators, everyone, and bringing that now that we're in the virtual space to, you know, to the internet. So we have the Homeschool Hueniversity, it's called HUE, Homeschool Hueniversity, which is a host of some of the greatest educators that have come through the expo, which tend to be our elders and scholars and, you know, amazing parents who have all of the skills to share that, you know, some of us are like, we need that, you know, we want to learn about that, and really learning everything from our worldview. So it's an opportunity for our young people to be supported. And the way we crafted it was for the family structure to be revitalized in the educational process of our children. So we have the parents, the children, the parents, and the grandparents. It's a family affair, and everyone is engaged in different classes, and you know, it's a family feel, right? That's always like our thing. You know, it's about creating that support. Nothing is corporate. There's no corporate entity here. You know, we're just about just coming together, sharing the resources. The children, this has been the first week, so you haven't had much sleep. I want to shout out my operations director, Mama Major, and a host of other team members who have been there to make it possible through my craziness. Like, you want to do what? When do you want to do that? I was like, no, we have to. So, you know, just it's an opportunity for us to connect with children around the world. So we have children enrolled from 12 different countries, or 10 different countries. We're working in 12 different countries, 10 different countries. We have families from in the Caribbean. We have families across the U.S. And we have a virtual study abroad program, which Baba Shakara is a part of. You know, we want to pull educators in from around the world where they're educating on various subjects that are what they call core subjects, but I feel like all of the learning, you know, we're talking about, we have a course on African values, a course on physics, but all that, to me, the African values is equally as important as the physics, where people tend to call those electives. We call them complementary courses. So on our campus, we have a host of reading materials, reading lists. We have over 600, you know, Black books collective for our young people, you know, to have access to the audiobooks and the ebooks. We have social groups. So the children are, you know, we're listening to what they want, because Liberated Minds is not something that we are creating just in the staff component, but that the community and all of us are coming together to create by voicing our needs, you know, and having the grandparents be involved is a whole nother level, because I think that piece has really been dismembered in a way that many of them have the love and they want to be more involved, but they're also looking like, you know, with the span between when they went to school and what's happening now. A lot of them are like, I don't even, this homeschooling thing and all the stuff that's going on in the schools, they don't know how to be involved in a lot of ways. This is bringing them back into the process And then through their overstanding, they're realizing and they're remembering and they're healing, they're bonding, they're reconnecting with their parents and how this frequency that's in alignment, and therefore allows for their involvement with the younger children. So it's reconstituting family and in many different ways. We have a bridge board that connects families, you know, wherever they are. But ultimately, because I am involved in so many different things, I will give my link, which is linktr.ee/Queen Taese. And that will give all the different things we have going on. We have a webinar I want to share with everyone coming up. This Friday, we had a series, the Homeschool Success Charge, which we gave. It's just, you know, free for the community. Some great, supposed to be 2 hours. It ended up being 4 hours because it was so much information. We had a host of guest panelists. This week, we're having managing their devices because there's a lot to think about with our children on this internet all day from the health standpoint, but also from managing all the things that they have access to see, that we want to be monitoring what's happening on that front. And the last one of the series will be dealing with health and wellness. So all of that is on the link tree, and it's link.ee/Queen Taese. So definitely get involved in whatever way. You know, we're just about creating the resources and the support system and actualizing. So we're an organization of action, you know, not just for the information. I say consciousness is great, but the conscientiousness is the action of doing it and working together to bring it, you know, put it into motion.
Master, thank you very much, Queen Taese. And one thing that we haven't gone into today, that I'm just reminded of, is that they also have people that deal with so-called special needs. Yeah.
Yes.
We're probably gonna have to do a whole nother show on that because that is a very specialized area of education. But I did want to just mention that because it came to mind that you do have that.
Absolutely, that's very important. Very important. And we have some of the greatest that I've met, you know, that cater to the cultural piece in it, because we tend to be very underserved in that area too. So a lot of elements with that too. Yes.
Yeah, and that's important. That we probably can underestimate the extent to which we can have our own cultural trajectory in terms of special needs, right? So, so that's important. Family, this has been an excellent show. We're gonna go into our close system. What do you have? Any closing words?
I feel a part 2 coming on. That's what I see. And it would be great to have, you know, if we can have more education back into the space and maybe others. I think it would be fantastic to have another conversation about this. And I think even that conversation around special needs, because we know that not everybody's in the same place. And I know that we have a lot of banter, but again, you know, where people are homeschooling and home educating and having to change the way that they think around their learning and confronting their own stuff around education. Like, you could have gone under the radar maybe before when your children were in school, but you cannot hide now.
Yes.
And so if you have weaknesses around education, you better believe your children are going to show you. So it's very important that we as parents feel also very empowered by that choice and stay empowered, because it's easy to be in a position where you don't feel, you know, you maybe isolate yourself off, or you don't connect with people much, or if you need help, you're not asking for it. I think these are very important things and factors. And again, going back to the conversation about special needs, that being an added layer to a child's education and maybe a parent's challenge on top of that. So we amongst the state of affairs and the mental and emotional well-being of the young people. So I do feel the second show is definitely welcome, and I hope that we can have you back and you'll come back, because we could have done 4 hours with ease, right?
It's true. You know, especially because the whole owner can talk, innit? They talk, you know. But what's it called? but
I want to try it. One of them.
Listen. I confess, I have the verbal gift of gab. Long story. I do want to big up my brother M.A. Bunya, M.A. Bunya, who's an educator and him and his wife actually, Kasu, they're over there in Gambia doing some works at the moment. And I'll let you know a secret, Queen Taese. We're gonna get them in. I'm gonna be incorporating them into my course. Yeah, some of what they're doing in Gambia because it's applicable and these kinds of things. But yeah, so we got MA Body and Kasu. Do you know what I'm saying, over there in Gambia? Because it's important to connect what we're teaching in the lessons to work that is actually going on in the world, right? So that's one of the reasons we're going to do there. I'm taking away 2 words from this: culture and community. It has been said that no parent should be doing this alone, and so the importance of this is that we're creating community around our own educational institutions. Yeah, that is important, and there's going to be serious what's the word, implications for this in terms of our future. Coming back to what Ziggy was saying, and I think a lot of what he was saying was real in terms of the challenges that are going to face our children, you know, in the next 10 to 20 years.
In a competitive market as well, because we have
all of that stuff.
Still competitive, of course.
Most definitely. But for me, I feel like the work that you all are doing, and the fact that we're connecting the work that you all are doing, is going to make the prospects for our children much better. Yeah. Because this is a foundation from which to build. We're gonna be at a more advanced position in terms of this work in 10 years at the same time as well. Yeah. So thank you all for being here. Have to big up Leah Salmon, Superwoman, is in the building. Do you know what I'm saying? And we could have had her on the panel as well. In fact, there's no subject that we actually address on Quarantine Convos that Leah Salmon could not be a part of. She does everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? So just big up to Leah Salmon. You don't know, and your husband. Yeah, well, big up your husband too, because your husband special as well. You know, so big up Brother Jeremy and them thing there. But yeah, thank you for joining us, sis. And yeah, man. Once again, thank you to all the panel. We're gonna sign off right about now. Stay tuned. We're discussing taking Quarantine Convos bi-weekly. All right, so do stay tuned for more information on that. So stay tuned for the notifications, because we might be doing this every 2 weeks as opposed to every week. All right, yeah, man. Either way, pure niceness. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And conversations such as this has been one of my favorite Quarantine Convos. I can't lie. It's levels, and yeah, man, look forward to part 2. Remember that, kings and queens, and always remember, you ain't got nothing if you ain't got kush.
Quarantine Convos. Enjoy weekly discussions with people from around the world, assisting us in dealing with this normal, mentally, spiritually, and physically. We feature nutritionists, psychologists, therapists, personal trainers, home educators, legal experts, and more, bringing you all the information and inspiration you need. Check out Quarantine Convos every Thursday from 7 p.m. live on Got Kush TV.
How to boost your immune system in the COVID-19 era. An illustrious panel of health professionals